yeah, thank you for inviting us again. And to introduce, I'm Henrik Olssøn. I'm the manager director and co-founder of Olssøn Barbieri.
And I'm Erika Barbieri, the creative director.
So we thought we thought of sharing some of our projects today, but before that we want to talk a little bit about the reason why we work with food, and kind of what we things we think we should unlearn today to create a more just and maybe joyful food system. So kind of the short story, or kind of our story in short, is that we met during our studies in Florence, in Erika's hometown in Italy. So we were actually our background is in communication and product design, sort of after school, we moved to Oslo in 2005, and then we set up the studio right away. So we started with a kind of we started Olssøn Barbieri with an ambition, or we started working together first of all with an ambition of creating meaningful work and to collaborate with progressive clients and other visionary, other talented creatives, to kind of work with the food and try to influence what the future of food would be like. So these are some images from our studio space. It used to be a storage on top of a mall in central Oslo. So we refurbished the space, and you see also here in one of the photos, Marcello, our cat, who's coming to us, who's coming with us to work every day.
He's in the room, so you might come and say hello.
Yeah. So yeah, as a focus, we work with we specialize in brand identity and packaging design, mainly for food and drinks, and our clients are ambitious startups and family companies. Kind of they have become more family companies as we have been kind of during our path, which we like a lot. And many of them now are also international. We're working with our projects from the US, Los Angeles and Washington, and India and Saudi Arabia and Berlin, and of course in Scandinavia, in Norway. So we think of our work as concept-driven and future-oriented, in terms that we are always trying to challenge a bit the category language and what's the more sort of common expression in a category, and also in terms of materials, since we also work quite often with structural design in our projects. We're also grateful to be able to work with clients that are forward-thinking and ethically responsible. So we think sort of that the future is not really about consuming more, but about appreciating products with beauty and purpose. So we are aspiring to that, let's say.
So why we work with food? I am Italian, so my obsession with food started at a very early age. Looking at cartoon, I was obsessed with the food in them also. And growing up, I was taught that what we eat is one of the most important decisions we are making every day, and my family chose ingredients and made food with love and care. And actually, me cooking with my grandmother is one of my first memory. I believe food is a portal and a place of transformation, is connecting us to each other, to our culture, and ultimately to nature, shaping the world we are living in. And so you can say that eating is a cultural expression and has a political sentiment, but also most importantly is a ecological act, is an act that embodies our relationship with earth. And by choosing what we eat, we are intrinsically supporting the people and the structure that are producing it. So we think that steel design practice is considered a tool for commerce, and is mostly promising to create profit in different ways. And feel that designers are not really required to explain the difficult topics of today's food system, his hidden powers and his ecological implication, even though food is deeply entangled with the climate crisis and is not, but is not taken as seriously. And living in a time where ecosystems are collapsing due to human activity, we feel that we need to recognize the broader ecological implication of our work, and of course, as a designer, hopefully bring more critical thinking. In our case, we are trying mostly within the food industry. So how can we cultivate a more just, biodiverse and beautiful food system? While we are not claiming to have any answer, we do believe that in the power of language and to change reality, and also in the potential to recognize our collaboration with more than humans to life systems, to start healing our relationship between humans and nature. So semantics matters and have the power to change reality. And if language dictates our relationship with things, so colonialism is flavoring many of the food we eat today. As with chocolate that is entrenched in Swiss identity, for example, or tea with British culture, and even though neither cocoa beans or tea are grown there. So we are asking ourselves what should we learn, and how can we decolonize ourselves, and as climate crisis and biodiversity loss and social segregation are still accelerating, we think is becoming clear that we are not going to get to the change that we need with the same thinking and language that have created those problems. So we need new words to change attitudes and behavior, and describing our world, our natural world, and the growing threats to it. So this following is an effort to collect few examples of what we mean, and hopefully, yeah, to be more clear.
Yeah. So we put up this kind of overview of some aspects we've been reading about and talking about lately. Like also in the global north, we do have a sort of a very anthropocentric worldview, putting humans at the center, and this has kind of promoted the commodification of nature as sort of how can we extract value from natural resources? How can we use this kind of, as opposed to more indigenous cultures, which maybe we can learn from to have more a relationship with nature, and see learn how we can view Earth as a communion of beings, and asking kind of, or seeing natural things, let's say mountains, stones, air, and water as relatives and ancestors. And also the sort of idea of the capitalist idea of luxury being based on scarcity, the concept of scarcity versus abundance. And here we've been reading lately also the work of Vandana Shiva, who is an environmental activist and advocate for food sovereignty. She's talking about the intelligence of the seed, and how in nature a seed creates a plant that can create millions of seeds, and so teaching us about the abundance that is there in nature.
And then an economy of renewal and care, as opposite to an economy of growth and profit, and from separation to a concept of making odd kin. And here I'm quoting Donna Haraway, that she's saying, staying with the trouble means making odd kin. That is, we require each other in unexpected collaborations and combination in odd compost piles. And then she also has another quote that is long and a little bit of a tongue twister, but I think is very much kind of what have brought us to start to think about languaging as a tool to actually work with. She's saying, it matters what matters we use to think other matters with. It matters what stories we tell to tell other stories with. It matters what knots, not knots, what thoughts think thoughts, what descriptions describe descriptions, and what ties tie ties. It matters what stories makes words, what words make stories. And yeah, and then the eco-philosopher Timothy Morton, that is suggesting that is easy to forget that we are symbiotic beings entangled with other symbiotic beings. Isn't that what is to be ecological?
And yeah, lastly we have also George Monbiot. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his surname. He's a writer for The Guardian and an activist. And he says that if we want people to engage with the living world, we should stop using constipated terms to describe our relationship to it. So the environment, in his opinion, is an empty word that creates no picture in the mind, where animals and plants are described as resources and stocks, as if they belong to us and their role is to serve us. And ultimately, if we can't describe what's disappearing, we can't take care of it. So the word extinction is really, it conveys no sense of agency, in his opinion, removing our responsibility or involvement of what's going on in nature.
So how can we collaborate with other than humans? We kind of this is what in this past period is actually keeping us kind of motivated and excited about the opportunity that we feel we have to learn entrench narratives and relearn a new way of thinking and storytelling in a way that is allowing us to be more in communion with our environment as opposed to be in separation from it. And even though we understand that talking about this topic is difficult, and of course there is concern and disbelief and not a single solution, we also understand that the mainstream food industries has kind of little incentive to make a shift in a structure and a system from which they are profiting. So our journey, you can say, started with love for food and kind of evolve into a passion for the future of food. And we more and more feel that brands today should contribute to replacing our extractive economy based on power and competition with one that is prioritizing care and well-being. And while this is, of course, including how and where the products and packaging are produced, and of course, which the choice of material we are making and their afterlife, we feel that most of the time, or we should focus also on what has become invisible of our food production system, and that's with that we mean the loss of biodiversity, the commodification of resources, the exploitation of farmers and workers, animal suffering, and our products travel, and overall our disconnection from nature. So here we sort of try to put together a work in progress values or ideas that we think the future of food should have. And we believe there is not one single solution. And with that, we refer to some of the conversation around food tech and how making vertical salad is going to feed the world. It should be owned by people because we do know what's happening when corporations makes food. We should give the future of food should give agency, autonomy, and sovereignty to a community. It should not cause any harm. It should reflect the capacity of the land, and with that has to do also with this model of patenting seeds and selling seeds and forcing kind of farmers to grow certain kind of vegetables or grains or
biotech basically, and kind of
manipulation
acquisition of rights to DNA material.
And we should be supporting multiplicity and complexity of living system, and of course food should spread joy and should be delicious. And here is the end of our introduction to why we are working with food and what we think is interesting with that.
Yeah. So we selected a few projects that we where we are trying to ask kind of let's say a particular word or concept that becomes the foundation for our research and the process. And that somehow is also reflecting a little bit what we've been talking about before, the projects where we feel our interest in these topics for the food future has come a little bit to the surface. So Stereoscope is a specialty coffee roaster based in Los Angeles. So we were asked to redesign the identity and packaging system, and while kind of researching into the coffee world and the specialty coffee world, we learned that coffee is also has become a commodity created by colonist history. That is very much also a structure that is perpetuated still today, and so we wanted to actually kind of go beyond that and go and learn more about the plant itself. So the coffee Arabica, which is a specialty coffee where specialty coffee comes from, that is the one. There are kind of two species. There's Arabica and Robusta, and Arabica is what kind of all coffee bars with a certain profile
specialty coffee is
serving.
Only Arabica coffee.
Yeah. So we learned that actually the coffee Arabica is an endangered plant. It is predicted to be half its production is its current yield by 2050.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of bad news for coffee lovers. So, and also where the communication usually goes in the specialty coffee world is the relationship, kind of the fair trade relationship with the farmer, and recognizing the farmer fair working conditions, and etc. So yeah, that's why we thought also it was interesting to bring the conversation further and closer to the plant itself, raising awareness for the plant basically. So in short, about the concept is a kind of is a bit of a complicated story, but the founder is Korean, and the mantra he sort of established for Stereoscope was depth and simplicity. And that is sort of also inspired by the optical device, the Stereoscope, which overlays two images and allows you to see, to experience an image in greater depth and in 3 dimensions. So inspired by this this device and sort of the mantra, we realized how the concept is how this duality, let's say, of the depth and simplicity was sitting very sort of fitting next to the Chinese cosmology of the yin and yang. So where you have sort of a certain view of the yearly cycle, seen as 5 seasons, not 4 as we see it, and we're also the coffee flower actually has also 5 petals, and the principles for making good coffee, which is kind of sort of a procedure, is also made of 5 principles. So we worked with a typeface designed by Dennis Grauel, that is consisting of 5 different widths that is randomly set when you type. So basically you have an organic and always sort of unpredictable outcome in all their communication. Yeah, this is basically
and also we wanted to find a typography that didn't have a strong heritage or history to speak like that.
Exactly.
That was,
to not impose any kind of sort of strongly
Identity
Western or
Heritage,
colonial
yeah.
heritage or any sort to the brand. So this is one of the bags, and we managed to source also from a producer in the US coffee bags that are made of 99.6% plant-based material. And on the other side of the bag, we have we also wrote we worked with a writer creating a text where kind of a long text where the coffee beans are talking in the first person. So this is actually kind of printed on the whole opposite side of the bag. And we were kind of a little bit worried that people wouldn't get it, but apparently they do. So that's nice to hear. So the outer box for the bag comes in this mountain shaped box that we custom designed for the project with foil blocking for the same cliche for all boxes. And they were also we've been working with the 4 different color papers. FSC certified papers, and the mountain shape is a bit of a nod to the high altitude cultivation of the specialty coffee. So the higher the altitude, the kind of better flavor profile you get from the beans. And this is one of a few of the principles. We did a poster that is part of the subscription service of the brand that is also explaining the 5 different principles of creating good coffee, and those are see here: altitude, soil, and the fauna, the climate, and the relationship between the farmer and the roaster. Here you see the subscription boxes that we also custom designed cardboard outer boxes that were made as the same triangular mountain shape with a tear-off opening that is the same opening method as for the boxes inside. So you will basically be able to ship this directly from the roaster with a shipping label on the back. And optimize. There's no empty. There's no air basically in this box.
Use the poster with all the elements.
Yeah.
And then we avoided to use labels for each coffee, but rather those cards that are printed by the producer, and then it can be turned and written some notes.
Notes kind of. So there's also no glue actually in the labeling system, because the print or the roaster is printing those cards. They come printed with the foil blocking, but the rest is is an InDesign file that they actually printing themselves for every roast.
I have to check that they are right and not changing anything with it, but from that it's working out.
So this project has been very important for us, and kind of I guess also realizing how important it is to be lucky enough to work with clients who have a similar mindset, and kind of open to let certain story, certain narrative come to the surface. So that's been very a very nice collaboration.
Right. And here is Chateau Picarona and another endangered plant. So we learn by starting to work with this project. But here was also kind of interesting for this project to also understand how to communicate the expression of a place when, again, the climate conditions are actually making disappear, like they are making it disappear,
the condition to grow a certain kind of product, a certain kind of wine, is actually
are disappearing
gradually.
So Chateau Picarona is owned by an Australian family, and but is and they have a vineyard in Bordeaux in France. Being an Australian family, they kind of wanted to kind of be much more friendly and relaxed, and even though they wanted to respect the legacy of the area, they also wanted to shake the snowberry. So they are growing only Merlot around the estate, and they started with 6 products, and now they already added a seventh one. When we started to research, we found that actually the etymology of Merlot, the grape, comes from this local blackbird, the merle, that loves grapes, and actually also picaron itself means
it kind of comes from picorere,
that is
French so well, but means sort of nibbling.
So we chose to introduce this mascot, this bird that is illustrated by a French illustrator, Joshen, and is helping the communication to tell about also the process of for each wine production. So when we started to talk, the family in Australia, with the family in Australia, but also with the winemaker that was a local winemaker, so was used to work with the wine in Bordeaux. He was basically explaining us that so the Bordeaux appellation, basically, that started with Napoleon deciding that this was the most prestigious area to grow wine, are self-imposed. They have self-imposed restrictions that basically are making winemaking very difficult, and then in addition to the change with climate, is making basically really this practice very hard. Something to do with so to have the Bordeaux appellation, you cannot irrigate the vines, and for example, you have a window for when you can harvest, and the wine cannot have a certain level of sugar. So then there you have it. Is basically very difficult to maintain this production. So we understood that we could not kind of that restriction was the key word here to kind of work with. So the first restrictions that we took ourselves was to choose one typography, and this is Bourrasque from a French foundry, and is of course is Biro Brut, is have a straight or as a kind of regular font, and also two slanted version, one left and one right at 45 degrees, and somehow we thought it was a good way to represent sort of the past, the present, and the future. And then future, wanting to continue with self-imposed restriction, we also chose to call each wine with a palindromic name. Palindromes are words that can be read from right to left and left to right, and they say the same thing. So of the range, we have 3 products that actually have a Bordeaux appellation, and those we chose French namings, and those are Le Bonnevel, Nederleden that you see here, and Monon. And for the other 3, that actually they decided that was more interesting for them to explore the future of what Bordeaux wines could be, and for that those wines could not have the appellation of Bordeaux. So we chose English names, and those are Tataratata, Madame Adam, and No Lemon, No Melon. We didn't invent those words. There is, if you search for palindromes, you find a list of different names, and we chose the one that we thought fitted the wines best. This is the back label. Is a little bit of our signature. We love nice back labels. And for each product we developed, basically each product is stating the restriction in which the product was made, and there is an illustration that kind of is helping to explain that. And also when working with this project, we also thought that was kind of this is something that every winemaker in Bordeaux, of course, is experiencing, but also other winemakers, and that was interesting to kind of develop a community where these winemakers could share their experiences, and we call it OVIPO. That is roughly translated, yes, a workshop of potential wine, that was inspired by actually talking about restraints and palindromes and kind of literature. In the 1960s, there was founded by mathematicians and writers this gathering of artists that were kind of using self-imposed restraint as a tool to unleash creativity, let's say it in a very yeah. One example, yes, one example of their work is actually an entire book that was written without the letter E, for example. Yes, it's actually quite amazing. And then we discovered on the way, when we contacted actually Joshen, that there is also one of those OVIPO, OLIPO, also for the graphic designer. So he's part of one of those. So we really felt that he was the perfect
it didn't need any introduction to him.
Person for it. And yeah, this is the wrapping paper where we have collected kind of all the most of the illustrations that we did with him.
So yeah, this project is called Shalom Beauty. It's a family-owned orchard farm in Washington State, close to Seattle. And they contacted us with they had no identity basically for their farm. They wanted to create a new identity and packaging system for their fruits. So their mission was sort of they wanted to be able to kind of, in their words, raise the bar on the American food system and making healthy food more fun and educational. So we started, yeah, we we developed their also subscription system that we will show later, and worked with an Italian illustrator called Giacomo Bagnara for their illustrations, kind of a little bit inspired by the world of fruit stickers. So what we I guess we'll know is that not all farming is necessarily good farming, and they're actually kind of as farms used to be much more kind of small scale based and family owned. Now today, small independent and family run farms are only making up around 8% of all agricultural land. So that felt kind of important to be helping them to tell their story. So this is one of the because we also worked with we worked with their fresh fruit to be able to deliver to the kind of local area, let's say around the farm in Washington, fresh fruit in season, but also they also had dried apples and dried cherries and blueberries. So we actually freeze dried. That is a method that kind of preserves almost all the nutritional values of the fruit, and it becomes more of a snack to be able to use with granola, etc. So we developed their retail packaging for these pouches as well. Here is one of the illustrations for that was kind of supporting the material that comes in the subscription box, which the subscription is also a very nice way for them to create a stronger link to the local community, and of course for people to receive fresh fruit instead of channeling their money into a complex logistics system. We learned actually through this project that most apples, like you have apples, of course, available almost all year round, but the season for apples is usually sort of end of September, October is the harvest. So the apples you get kind of for the rest of the year until the next harvest is actually can be up to 8 to 10 months old. So of course, fresh fruit is kind of nicer. And these are the subscription boxes that were printed with only one color, but we also created a sticker system that they could personalize for each shipment. And yeah, this is you see also we've been working here with quite a lot of a combination of more typographies,
and bring kind of this more scientific and health information together with kind of the language of fruit wrappers and fruit stickers, so some nostalgia. And so, this animation is always the delay, but it moves a little bit.
Supposed to be moving smoothly.
But somehow it's pretty slow. Yes. So this is another project. Actually, this is the last two are tunnel vision projects. This is ambitious, and is a non-alcoholic range of drinks that somehow at the time now, this 3-4 maybe years
around there, 3 maybe, yeah.
It was kind of the Nolo category is still I'm guessing one of the most growing categories within the beverage industry, and mostly kind of moved by the interest for health, or maybe also people that are not necessarily interested in drinking alcohol. And somehow what we thought that was interesting wasn't that there wasn't a language for this category, and most of those products as they were available were kind of not necessarily offering an attractive look, and often is of course what this product offered was also a complexity in flavor that was making this product kind of much more attractive for who decided not to drink. Sorry to have made it long. Yes, sort of we saw the attitude of these products more similar to the attitude of natural wines, and developed also the brand name as kind of inspired by the complexity of the flavors. This is
and the fermentation process, yes. Also.
So the products are fermented, and it's a mix of ingredients that create this complex flavor. And so we thought something that combined both pleasure and the complexity of flavors, and the word ambiguous, inspired by the ambiguous combination of ambiguous and juice, that is kind of sort of the nickname for
very common in the natural wine space.
So it became ambiguous.
It's a sort of a portmanteau.
Right. Yes, here when we started to work with the strategy and the concept together with the brand name, then we sort of work also with the product names, and for this one we actually thought that to use oxymorons, that is a combination of two words that are opposite,
contradictory
to each other. So this product is called Act Naturally, and then we have another product called Clearly Confused and Real Fantasy. And kind of what we wanted to achieve was sort of to mix both the emotional and the scientific part of this product. So the label is divided in one part where we are listing all the ingredients that are part of the product, and then we collaborated with a French illustrator, Alexis Jamet, that made these illustrations that are inspired by kind of the recipe, and the color code was actually inspired by the different ingredients. He made these animations as well that, of course, kind of have this tactility and the hypnotic quality to them. And of course, also interesting, we often work with in Norway there are funny rules for working with alcoholic beverage where you cannot publicize them. So also for us to create assets that for a brand can be used outside of for promotion was kind of exciting. And here we also paired this illustration style actually with another illustrator, Espen Friberg, that he's Norwegian, and that is kind of more of a witty and fun, and somehow we brought the idea of the lab is our terroir, that is where actually this products are made. And this is the last project that we are sharing with you, and is Stavanger Hysterie, and is a female-driven urban cheese factory. Lise, that you see here is the the founder, and she's one of the first person in Norway bringing back the tradition of making artisanal cheese making with unpasteurized milk that was illegal in Norway until not
years ago.
so long ago. So she's become quite part of this kind of front runner for both working with unpasteurized milk and also with local and organic produce. So the name is Stavanger. Stavanger is the city where the cheese factory is founded. So being in a city, we realize pretty fast that kind of the romantic idea of the countryside lady making cheese from the milk of the animal, that she's kind of part of the farm, was not the right story here. And that allowed us to also bring another storytelling, and we sort of saw her more almost as a chef, creating taste experiences. And then because of the name Stavanger, this was a redesign process. She had a cow logo, face of the cow as a logo, and we kind of went back to the coat of arms actually, and of Stavanger, and found a very old one where with this trunk with leaves sprouting, that is sort of a new generation coming up, that we thought was very fitting to her story. So as we said, her cheese is made by unpasteurized milk that is preserving the terroir of the milk. That's the intention. And what is fascinating is that basically everything starts with milk, and then depending on the different rennet that are put in the milk, you are able to create all the different cheeses that we know. So we kind of were fascinated by, of course, the scientific part of it. She also has a degree or a...
Yes, she's actually she has a master of science in sherbet making. Didn't know that was something you could do, but she's into cheese.
Yes, so she knows her cheeses, and so in this case with the naming, we follow kind of her fascination with also mythology, and this cheese in particular is washed with a local beer that is called Konrad. So for this one, we kind of created the illustration representing these monks that usually they were actually, they were the one that pretty much invented this way of washing cheeses with beer. And we to echo kind of this idea of fermentation and these microorganisms that are kind of making the different cheeses. We also choose to kind of collaborate with this illustrator, Deborah
Spielman.
Thank you. And for this one is actually is a pink, has a pink skin, and is called Pan. So we represented the god Pan that is kind of enhancing women with his flute. And then we also so Lise have only women working for her, and somehow we thought that as in the food industry, so in the design industry, kind of women are not kind of
is always equally
equally
represented.
represented. So we sort of chose to collaborate with yes, a female illustrator, and then here we went with Anne Valor, is a fantastic photographer. We are so lucky to work with in Stavanger, and took pictures there. So all collaborators kind of we chose women. And talking about collaboration, we thought, of course, it's nice to talk through the years all of the many people that we are been collaborating with. In some cases, all at once, but most of the time we are kind of going back to some people, and this is also some of the words and the work that we have been referencing in the speech. And then, as we said, Marcello is our collaborator, and
he shows up every day.
Yes, it's coming every
important
day.
Too.
And then we are not doing so many self-initiated projects, but we started this thing some years ago, where every year we are choosing to immortalize some of our projects in NML. So we are making pins of some of the projects that we made. So we will send you a card with some of them tomorrow. I guess we produced them actually in London. So that's yeah. So if
you have any favorites, you can
you can tell us later. And then we thought of finishing with these. Some years ago, we redesigned our website, and somehow we our research usually during our research we usually find a lot of nice images, and we felt that was a pity to not be able to share or to have a place where we could share them. So on our website we have this chapter called Tutto, that means everything in Italian, where we are uploading different images that are part of the research, or random things that we think are kind of nice, and they are randomly selected, and you can play with them, and it's sort of our cabinet of curiosity. One could say all of these things are physical in the studio, and what is physical, and then some are just images.
Yeah, there is also actually a little Instagram account we also created that is also called Tutto.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what we had.
Oh, yeah. Nice, thank you. Kind of nice to hear. If you want to ask us question on projects or
thank you for that. That's super interesting. I was curious to know, with your, I suppose, focus in terms of both the stuff you were talking about at the beginning in terms of the future of food and your values, and obviously the type of focus in the people that you want to work with, do you have any principles or criteria around who you actually work with? And does it become, are there occasionally blurred lines where you're working with people that sort of fit some of those criteria, but maybe don't fit all of them? And how do you make that type of decision?
Mm-hmm. So it hasn't really happened that kind of, I feel we have been lucky enough to attract also the right people. Of course, in some cases, we are kind of having meetings, and maybe they are meeting more people also, right? And then you end up not getting the job, and wonder, and think maybe it was for the best that went that way. we don't really have the luxury of sending work away, but definitely we are hands-on when it comes to seeing potential in a story and bringing it up if it's something that we think is interesting, and maybe right with more experience you start to understand also when it's possible to be able to do a work like to invest more in innovation and in certain things rather than what's the project is asking for. So not always every project is asking for maybe certain kind of innovations.
Better say though that we also we're very happy to see that we're starting to kind of get a bit of a response of the type of clients that we would like to work with. So we don't do actually any new business investment. We don't really spend or very little, at least, time kind of reaching out to new clients. So that is of course a little bit of a risky situation. You are ending up, or your trajectory might be then it's in the hands of who is reaching out, right? So that's sort of something we've been always investing in, sort of making the next project the very best we can, and hoping for something similar to come back. It has maybe I mean, it is of course a financial question as well when it comes to balancing kind of the small scale nice family run farm maybe doesn't have really the budget. We can't really run the whole year based on only small projects. So there is of course a balance. We do also work with more kind of a bit more bigger scale clients, and then of course there is I mean I wish we could only I guess choose or kind of be completely on the ethical right side, but we are also of course working in an economy, and you have to balance that.
But I also feel we have been intentional when it came to, for example, expanding to food. For several years, we work mostly within the drinks and beverage, and we realized that then we will end up being typecast as often happens, and we felt, okay, no, that's not what we want. So we actually went after projects that were more into food, and that has allowed us now to kind of and I mean this was intentional, that part, and then of course the part of realizing, okay, this is what we want to do, and actually, you know, we are a small studio, so some bigger clients also came knocking on our door, and when they realized how big they were like, no, we cannot work with you. So we thought, okay, but maybe actually we are happy that we are working with the size of clients we are working with. They are fully invested in what they are doing, and so are we, and that is a great starting point.
Thank you.
Cool. I'll hop forward so I'm closer to the mic. Yeah, thank you for taking us through that. The work was like really, really beautiful, and I thought what was really nice, because obviously you said at the start about the type of work you want to do and the type of kind of clients you work with. And I think the design work that you do kind of marries up with that. I think the human-based projects with your design work that feels very human. I think the actual design sensibility around typography, illustration, and those things actually tie really nicely into there. And I guess my question was, when it comes to actual design, do you have design principles or rules that you actually follow within your work as a practice?
I think because we are, I think sometimes the rule is, if you have done it that way, not repeat yourself and just do it that way. So it's kind of is more something almost something like more like that. More that if there is a A thought is more try to not repeat yourself because as we said, this kind of we are a small studio, so we could end up doing that. But I think the thing that we are always doing is definitely the phase of research is kind of an important phase for us, and there's where we are kind of also getting a little bit lost and follow some coincidences and some path and some kind of combinations of certain ideas and facts that are bringing us to a place where all of a sudden is something becomes interesting and interesting to tell. That has been how we have done it until now. And then this part of the languaging part is actually we are more and more working now also with words. So try to create a story that we think is important to make a brand or a product or that particular project stand out, and there is beautiful to work with people that are invested, because then you get their story and you get all their nuances. And now we work with a lot of couples as a couple, and then you have kind of these weird places where you kind of see their dynamics and also and then you get a sense of when you are on the right path, I feel.
Nice. I'll ask a slightly non-design related question, if that's okay. Running a studio, especially a small studio, given that your love is around food, do you ever have enough time to actually cook?
That's a good question. I'm proud to answer that we actually cook every day. So we do. That's kind of has become really part of our culture, I guess. Like Erica's Italian influence also is significant there. So we do, like, one person from the office is kind of volunteering, or we are kind of trying to kind of rotate a bit during the week. Whoever feels like cooking is kind of doing half-hour prep, and then we have a half-hour lunch break. So yeah, we do also a little bit of fermenting in the studio. So we have like a small ferment jar to make like giardiniera and
kimchi
and some things.
Lovely. That's Marcello's role.
Right. I felt that we've been kind of preaching so much, talking so much about fermentation and the importance of that, and that it's such a big part of many of the projects we work with. So like, yeah, we need to figure out, we need to try it and start doing it ourselves. Otherwise, we are a little bit it's really all in.
I've got one last question, and then if there's anyone else who wants to ask something, but there's so much passion and reason behind everything that you do, and kind of leaning on the question that Mark asked before about kind of the principles that you have and the things that you look for within your clients, and ensuring that there's hopefully as much parity behind how they think and you do. Does it ever get to a point where you think that you want to start being able to create your own brands yourself rather than the work of clients?
I mean, there are some. I think through the years we have been we have been fortunate that when we got curious about certain areas, so we got a project where we could run with it. So there are some potential that we see that will be fun to do. Things like if you want to put it out there, now we have an animal, and definitely will be fantastic to work with something that is connected with. He's traveling with us, so we are bringing him from home to the studio every day. When we fly in Italy for like longer than a week or 5 days, he's coming with us. So the realization of kind of I think there is so much improvement that can happen in the world of how we are treating our animals,
And maybe
more than pets for that. But
maybe even more cats than dogs, because I think the world of accessories and products for cats, they are really at the bottom of the design. So there's not really much design intervention.
And fun enough, when we finish actually our studies, our thesis was actually products for dogs. We did our final thesis together. But so I don't know. I think it is a way out. Of course, if at a certain point we will feel that we have had enough of all of this. But I think it's also beautiful to have the variation and also be able, I think, to tell stories is very kind of rewarding from that point of view. So I think, yeah, so far there is still motivation kind of to keep having more.
We also maybe mentioned we also had an experience kind of out of school to also create our own line of accessories in leather, because we had a collaboration at school with a kind of leather factory close to Florence. So we designed a little range of leather goods and tried to kind of run that next to the studio. And we, of course, back then we were very little experienced, and maybe now it will be different. But our lesson was that it was very difficult to kind of try to run a brand with left hand, sort of, or with one hand only. You have to be dedicated and do it all full time, I think.
All right. Well, I hope you have a lovely evening. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Nice. Thanks for inviting us.
Yes,
Thank you.
Nice to meet
you all.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.